There is a strange truth at the heart of living. The more tightly you cling to life, the faster it slips through your fingers. Like water, the hand that grasps cannot hold it, but the hand that opens receives it fully. We live in an age where control is worshipped. Control over time, over emotion, over success, over others, and even over the self. And yet, the tighter we try to hold the reins, the more we realize there are no reins at all. There is only the wild current and the illusion that we can command the river. The tragedy is not that we fail to control life. The tragedy is that we spend so much of it trying. The river of effort. Imagine standing at the edge of a river, the water alive and moving with its own rhythm. You step in, determined to swim upstream, against what is, toward what should be. You fight the current. You grow weary, and all your strength serves only to exhaust you. One day, when you have nothing left to give, you surrender. You let go, and in that instant, you discover something miraculous. The river carries you. What you had mistaken for defeat was in truth alignment. This is the secret rhythm of existence. When you stop insisting that life obey you, you begin to move with its music. The art of surrender, letting go, is not resignation. It is not laziness or indifference. It is the recognition that life is not an enemy to conquer, but a companion to dance with. To let go is to trust the intelligence of what is happening. It is to recognize that every wave, every gust of wind, every ending, every silence, is not an obstacle, but part of the larger unfolding that includes you. There is a difference between the mind's control and the soul's participation. The mind demands guarantees. The soul knows only trust. Letting go, then, is not about losing control. It is about realizing you never had it. And that realization is freedom. The ego's game. The ego, poor thing, does not like this truth. It believes it is the doer, the maker, the planner, the author of every chapter. But life writes in a language older than thought. It writes in tides, in seasons, in the soft decay of autumn leaves. And the ego, loud, ambitious, trembling, cannot hear that subtle music. It clings to identity. It fears change because change means death. Not physical death, but the death of the illusion of control. To let go, then, is to die before you die. To watch your false self dissolve, and see that what remains was never born and cannot die. The wind has no destination. A bird does not force its flight. The wind does not struggle to blow. The sun does not worry about shining. And yet, everything happens perfectly in its time. Why then do you? The consciousness that is aware of it all, believe that your worth depends on effort, struggle, and control. This is the comedy of the human condition. We believe we are the storm, when in truth we are the sky that holds it. You were never the one making life happen. You were the one through whom life happened. A vessel, not a captain. A witness, not a warden. And when you let go of the illusion of steering, you discover that the ship was never lost, because there was never anywhere to go. The grace of the present, letting go, begins in this moment. Not tomorrow, not after enlightenment, not when you figure it out. Now, for this moment, this breath, this flicker of awareness, is all that has ever been real. When you drop the story of who you are, and who you think you must become, you return to the raw simplicity of being. There, in the stillness, you find that nothing was missing. The current of life, call it God, Tao, Spirit, existence, was flowing through you all along. The task was never to control the current, but to remember that you are it. The weight of wanting. Every human heart carries a secret tension. The desire to grasp. We grasp for love, for meaning, for certainty. We grasp for approval, for permanence, for control. But have you noticed that everything you clutch begins to fade? Love wilts under the weight of possession. Freedom evaporates under the shadow of demand. And joy, that subtle fragrance of being, disappears when you try to bottle it. We try to hold still what was never meant to stay still. Life is a dance, not a photograph. To freeze it is to kill it. When you let go, you do not lose the dance. You join it. You become the rhythm itself, no longer the one watching, but the music moving through you. The tragedy is not that things change. The tragedy is that we believe they shouldn't. The mirror of control. Let us look more closely at this thing we call control. It begins as a whisper in childhood. Be good. Later it becomes a doctrine. Be successful. And eventually it turns into a burden. Be perfect. We spend years polishing our reflection in the mirror of the world, forgetting that the mirror is made of water. Every ripple of fear, every wave of desire, distorts the image we cling to as me. And yet, when you stop stirring the surface, when you simply let it settle, what appears? Clarity. The self you were chasing was never hiding. It was drowned in the noise of your own effort. The peace you were searching for was not beyond reach. It was obscured by the reaching. Letting go is not the loss of self. It is the end of pretending you were separate in the first place. The paradox of effort. To the mind trained to achieve, the idea of letting go sounds like failure. It imagines a world where nothing would get done, where surrender means collapse. But this is misunderstanding born of fear. The flower does not try to bloom. It opens because the sun warms it. The heart does not decide to beat. It moves by the pulse of life itself. Letting go is not the end of action. It is the beginning of effortless action, what the ancients called flow. When you no longer act from tension, action becomes play. When you no longer strive to prove yourself, life becomes expression. Have you ever noticed how the most beautiful things are born from ease, not strain? A musician lost in their melody, a child laughing in the rain, a wave folding into shore. Each is a perfect act, and none are trying. To let go is to trust that life moves through you more wisely than your plans could ever dictate. The fear of falling. The greatest obstacle to letting go is fear. We fear that without control, life will collapse into chaos. We fear that surrender means disappearance, that if we stop holding everything together, everything will fall apart. But here's the secret. Everything is already falling apart. And that's okay. The leaf falls, the wave breaks, the breath comes and goes, and yet the world does not end. Why do we believe that our lives should be any different? The fear of falling is the fear of truth, that nothing is truly ours. But this is not despair, it is liberation. When you see that all things pass, you stop clinging and start cherishing. You stop grasping at permanence and begin to dance with impermanence. You realize that the beauty of life lies precisely in its vanishing. The soft power of allowing. There is a gentleness in letting go, a quiet strength that comes not from resistance, but from yielding. The river shapes the stone not through force, but through persistence. The wind moves mountains one grain at a time. So too, life moves through you when you stop hardening yourself against it. You do not have to make life happen. You only have to stop standing in its way. The moment you relax into being, everything begins to breathe again. Your thoughts slow down. Your heart grows wide. The world, once so heavy, begins to float. It is not that the problems vanish. It's that you are no longer the one gripping them. The current carries you, and you see that it always was. The illusion of the separate self. Look closely, and you will see that what you call you is not something fixed or solid. It is a pattern, a rhythm, a temporary shape the universe takes, a wave in the vast ocean of being. When you say, I am thinking, who is the I? Can you find it? Can you point to it? You find sensations, thoughts, feelings, but they are all flowing, arising, and fading like clouds. Even the one who observes them comes and goes, moment to moment. And yet, behind all of this movement, there is something still. The space in which everything happens. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. You are not the waves. You are the ocean watching itself move. The separate self. This fragile construct of name and memory is the grand illusion. It fears letting go because it believes that without its grip it will disappear. But what actually disappears is only the mask. And beneath the mask is everything. Letting go is not annihilation. It is expansion. You do not vanish. You become vast. The dance of the opposites. Life is not a straight line. It is a rhythm, a dance between opposites. Light and shadow, birth and death, rise and fall. We suffer not because the opposites exist, but because we demand that one remain and the other vanish. We want growth without decay, joy without sorrow, love without loss. But existence is not made of half-truths. It breathes in duality, and in the tension between opposites, the beauty of the world is born. To let go is to stop choosing one side of the wave and allow the entire tide to move through you. The night does not resist the dawn. The seed does not fight the soil. Why then should you resist the very flow that creates you? Let go, and you will see that joy and sorrow are not enemies, but lovers endlessly entwined. The freedom beyond fear. True freedom does not mean doing whatever you wish. It means being at peace with whatever happens. Freedom is not found in the control of events, but in the surrender to their unfolding. When you let go, you are not passive. You are deeply alive. You are no longer entangled in resistance. You move as life moves, act as life acts, love as life loves. And something extraordinary happens. Fear begins to fade, because fear is always about losing control, losing safety, losing self. But when you see that there was never a you to lose, fear becomes a shadow, cast by a light that never goes out. This is what the sages meant when they said, "To die before you die is to awaken." It is to shed the husk of control and discover the infinity of being, the practice of flow. How do you let go then? Not by trying to let go. You cannot let go by force, just as you cannot fall asleep by effort. You let go by noticing the futility of holding on. You let go by seeing that control is an illusion. When you truly see it, not as an idea, but as a living truth, your hands open on their own. In the same way, when you realize that you are the current, you stop swimming against yourself. The flow of life is not something to enter. It is something you are. You cannot fall out of it. You can only imagine you have. So breathe, listen, watch how everything arises and passes, without your command, without your permission. And realize, it has always been this way. The gentle return. There comes a moment, often after years of struggle, when something soft breaks inside you. Not a collapse, but a quiet surrender. The soul's exhale after holding its breath for too long. You stop arguing with life. You stop bargaining with time. And you begin, at last, to listen. You notice the way the morning light filters through the window. How effortlessly the world awakens without your intervention. You hear the rain tapping the earth, and realize it has been playing its music long before you learn to worry. You begin to live not as a controller, but as a participant, a guest in the house of being. And in that humility, life ceases to be a battle. It becomes a conversation, a song, a flow, the silence that holds all things. There is a silence underneath everything, a stillness that does not change, no matter what rises and falls upon it. The body moves, the mind chatters, emotions surge and fade, but this silence, this awareness that watches, it remains. You are that silence, not the noise of your fears, nor the echo of your ambitions. You are the space in which they appear, the open sky beneath which clouds form and dissolve. When you live from that awareness, you no longer need to let go, for there is nothing to hold. You are not the grasping hand, but the air around it, not the dancer, but the dance. Every joy, every loss, every season of your existence unfolds and disappears within you, and you remain untouched. The invitation of death. To live fully is to befriend death, not as an end, but as a mirror. Death shows you the truth of impermanence, that all forms, all names, all stories are temporary ripples on the surface of eternity. This realization is not morbid, it is liberating. When you remember that all things must pass, you begin to love without clinging, to give without demanding, to live without fearing. The awareness of death does not take life away from you, it gives it back. For when you no longer resist the inevitable, you no longer resist anything. You merge with the rhythm of creation and destruction, and realize they were never two. In the death of the illusion of control, life blooms endlessly. The infinite now, letting go, brings you home, to the simplicity of this very moment. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but now, where life eternally unfolds. In the now, there is no effort, no resistance, no story to maintain. There is only the pure presence of what is. This is the flow, not something mystical or distant, but the living pulse of awareness, right here, right now. When you breathe without trying to change the breath, when you listen without wanting anything to be different, you are one with the flow. And the more you dwell in this space, the more you see that life was never against you. It was only waiting for you to stop standing in the way. Closing meditation. So, my friend, sit quietly for a moment. Feel the rise and fall of your breath. Feel how it happens on its own, without effort, without control. Now look inward. See how thoughts come and go, how emotions ripple and fade, how everything moves in this great dance of impermanence. You are not the movement. You are the stillness watching. You are not the river fighting to find the sea. You are the sea itself, welcoming the river home. Let life flow through you, as it has always done. Let joy come and go. Let sorrow pass and return. Let the world change 1,000 times, and remain as the silent witness, who never changes. Because when you finally release your grip, you discover that nothing was ever lost, and everything was always yours. To let go is to return to truth. To return to truth is to remember who you are, and who you are is the flow itself.